All right, I think we are live on YouTube. Let me go ahead and get the recording started here. We are recording on Zoom, and let's see if we're going live on Facebook. Look, 1, 2, 3. It is counting. Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. Nobody's with me on Zoom yet. We're a couple of minutes, well, actually a couple seconds early. This is another installment of Get a Clue in 52. This is tip number 18 overall. By now, you know. There are 5 sections in this book. The first section that we went over this year was the communication section. Now we're into marketing. There's 12 tips in marketing and 10 in every other category. After marketing, we're going to move on to networking, then sales, then accountability. That's the progression this year. The tips were ordered differently when I did the first edition of the book. Perhaps those of you know last year, every Sunday night I did this, and we went through all 52 tips, and I made notes on all of the updates and corrections and improvements and reordering of content. So that got us to the second edition of Get a Clue in 52. And why not? Why not just show up every Sunday night and keep doing this? It gets me ready for the week. And sometimes people join on Zoom. We build a little bit of community, and definitely I'm generating tons of content. This is my second go around reading these tips in a way that I record it. And right now there's nobody with me on Zoom, but I'm treating this as if I'm talking to a million people right now. And it's a lot of fun, and it's rewarding to do something consistently. And, like I said, it creates that media, which can be transcribed and repositioned and repurposed. So really, really, really enjoying the process. I'm going to go ahead. It's 8 o'clock straight up now. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. I'm going to finish reading dedications if there are any left to read. I've loaded this book with tons and tons and tons of dedications. Not tons and tons, but definitely more than a dozen. And I've been reading one dedication each week before I read this week's tip. And so I'm running out of dedications. This is week 18 already this year, but I still have two more. This one's gonna be a little tough. Like you can see the flag behind me. That's for my dad who served our Navy. My parents passed away in September last year, both of them 3 weeks apart. So this is a little heavy, but let me go ahead and get through it right away. To Dad, your dedication to Mom and our family was a model of greatness that I truly cherished beyond words. Thank you for trusting me to carry the Klubeck loyalty forward. I got it under control, and I won't let you down. Thanks. Thank you so much, Pops. I love you. All right. That's dedication. I got one more dedication to read next week, which is really to everybody, all of my students and clients throughout history, because you're the ones that I do all of this for. Although I got to be honest, it's a pretty good career. Like I was laughing the other day at one of my son's baseball games, and some of the parents were joking with me about what I do for a living. And I got to say simply, well, people pay me to talk to me, pinch me. I still can't get over it. I digress. If you want to learn more about what I really do, hit me up privately or request a complimentary coaching session from me or one of my coaches that I've trained. We'll be happy to tell you all about it. But more importantly, make sure that you get on your way to the life and business that you want. That's what we're all about here. All right. So let me get into today's tip. Today's tip, like I said, it comes from the marketing section of the book. Let me, where are you, marketing session? All right, here we go. Tip number 8. All right, so let me review marketing. First of all, let me review the first 7 tips that we cruised over. So tip number 1 in the marketing section of Get a Clue in 52 was know what you need to know, then know it. So I basically did a survey of the next 11 things that I'm going to talk about in the chapter. That's what tip number 1 was, like a little preview of the following 11 things. The idea is pick any one of the 11 and make a decision to get better at it. Look at the 11 and figure out which of the 2 among the 11 are the ones that are going to make the biggest impact. And then next year, the year after, go back to the list and find the next thing that you want to get better at. I loved the great NBA players like Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and Kobe Bryant. They would work on something in the offseason and come back. They would make one decision. I remember Magic Johnson, he made a decision he wanted to be a better free throw shooter. He wanted to take his average from 78% to 92%. He worked on it one summer, and he was at over 90% the rest of his career. And then another year, he wanted to be a better three-point shooter. He was never really a long-distance shooter. Committed to that all summer, and then came back the next year. Was he a great three-point shooter his whole career? No. But at the right time in his career, he decided to get good on that to add to his game. Marketing is the same way. There's 11 things that I think a good marketer will want to know, a bad marketer that wants to get good will want to know, a good marketer that wants to be great or better will want to know. So the survey of those is in tip number 1. Then tip number 2, we start getting into a little bit of explanation on each of them. So tip number 2 is know your ideal customer or customers. Without getting into it tonight, we're talking about demographics, psychographics, and even scuba diving deeper into buyer avatar and characters and personas and where do they live, where do they breathe, where do they go, who do they hang out with, what do they see along the way to where they're going, right? We'll talk about more of that a little bit later on in the section. Tip number 3 then was know your competition. Who else is targeting the same people that you are? Who's your competition? Who's competing with you for the attention of your audience? Hello to anybody that's watching live on Facebook. We are Zooming. If you want to join the conversation live with me, and we're live streaming into my YouTube channel, Watch Get a Clue. In addition to these videos, there's tons of other content on the YouTube channel, so it's worth a subscribe. Please check it out. Watch Get a Clue, all one word, on YouTube. Now, tip number 4 was know the conditions. Like, all things take place in space, to get kind of theoretical. So what are the market conditions that are surrounding your marketing efforts? What's the socioeconomic, political, cultural climate happenings? What's the current events? What's in the news? Where's technology right now? Where's crypto? And how does that impact and affect what you're trying to do? So I always call it the 3 C's of market research. You want to know what your customer's doing. You want to know what your competition's doing. You want to know the market conditions, customer, competition, and conditions. Tip number 5 is, well, I'm a little embarrassed to say it's kind of the same thing as tip number 2, know your customer, but I'm going a little bit different here. Know the issues, right? I always like to do the analogy that a coin, if this were a coin, it has a heads and a tails, a positive and a negative, so to speak, right? Well, an issue is the same thing. It's an opportunity or a challenge, opportunity, problem or opportunity. It's the issue. But the positive side of that is the opportunity to resolve it. It's an issue. The negative side of that is the unresolved status of the issue. So pleasure and pain is what we're talking about. What pain are your customers in or your prospects in? What pleasure do they seek? And how does you, your services, your company, your team address and help people resolve issues? So know the issues that your prospects and customers face. Number 6, a couple weeks back, was know your stuff, right? It's one thing to know these external things, the customer, the market conditions, and the competition, but internally, you really want to have good command of your stuff. What are you selling? What are you providing? Based on what you're providing, what else could you provide if your customer really needed it? How well do you know your stuff? How well can you answer questions? Or not just answer questions about your stuff, but one of the great things about public speaking, and marketing is no different, public speaking is marketing, is what we want to do as marketers, public speakers, influencers, is we want to communicate in a way that answers any questions that we know will come up in the minds of the audience. There's certain questions we know are going to come up. Should I pay attention? What is this about? Why should I care? Who are you to tell me? These are automatic things that are going to come up in the minds of the audience. But other questions are like, well, what's the problem? What prevents us from solving the problem? And what do you suggest we do about it? And then we're going to want our stuff to back up those claims. What gives us the confidence to say what we're saying when we're answering those questions, right? So the other side of it, though, is we don't want to create any questions in the minds of the audience that weren't going to be there in the first place, right? There's certain questions we know are coming, and there's other questions we don't want to invite to come. A confused mind doesn't buy. And it's not that we're always selling something for money, but all of us are in a position of influence. We all need to influence others to a greater way of being, whether it's influencing our kids, influencing our community members, influencing coworkers, teammates, direct reports, members of the committee, members of the congregation. You guys understand, we are all people of influence one way or the other. And I hope that you're getting a lot out of Get a Clue in 52 to influence the right way, a positive way towards more integrity in the world and for the people living in it. Now, listen, know your stuff was that tip. The next tip last week that we discussed was know your brand, parentheses brands, singular or plural. So your brand is your promise to the marketplace. Okay, what is your promise to the marketplace? What's a promise? A promise should be attention gaining and sensational. A promise a marketer makes should make me go, really? So it should be a big promise, the biggest promise a marketer could possibly make. And that promise should be promising to get me out of pain or towards pleasure. That's an attention-getting promise. A sensational promise is the biggest promise you can make. An attention-getting promise is the one that gets me out of pain or towards pleasure. That's the one I'm paying attention to. That's the one I might take action on. Right? Is pleasure and pain. So know your brands, and then not only your brand, what's your promise, but what allows you to make that promise with more confidence. It's your competitive advantages. What are your competitive advantages? Everything you do better or different than anybody else. Which I'm sure we're going to talk about competitive advantages as its own tip at some point here in this section. But that brings us to tip 8 tonight. Tip 8, feeling great, don't skate. It's not too late to read tip 8. Page 53, know the drivers of buyer, parentheses, human psychology. Know the drivers of buyer or human psychology. I'll go ahead and I'll read word for word now. Page 53. Thanks for joining along with me. If you're on YouTube following along, if you're on Facebook following along, we're doing a live right now, or if you're watching a recording of this sometime in the future, either way, thank you for following along. Here we go. Page number 53, get a clue in 52. Tip number 8. From the marketing section. Know the drivers of buyer/human psychology, or more simply put, a great marketer knows why people do what they do. It's fancy to say the drivers of our inner psychology and much simpler to say what we all want. One of the reasons I love marketers so much is because to be great, they must study the same basics of human motivation that we study and teach in the personal and professional growth industry. From our knowledge of behavioral style that can be measured with tools like DISC or Myers-Briggs, we know that marketing to Dr. Spock takes different messaging than marketing the same product and service to Jimmy Fallon. Broadly speaking, people are either drivers, persuaders, promoters, supporters, coordinators, or analyzers. Let me say that again. Broadly speaking, people are either drivers, persuaders, promoters, supporters, coordinators, or analyzers. More broadly speaking, people are motivated by perfection, usefulness, freedom, control, service, tradition, or discovery. Parentheses, contact me to learn more about getting your own behavioral assessments conducted. We can do that for you if you want to know where you are on all of that, on what your style is and on what motivates your behavior. I digress. From our studies ranging from Aristotle, Maslow, Brian Tracy, or Tony Robbins. Now think about that continuum: Aristotle to Maslow to Brian Tracy and Tony Robbins. Imagine that gamut. Right? We know that psychological pleasure and pain is determined by the fulfillment of certain emotional needs. We know that people need certainty and safety, variety and excitement, connection and love, significance and power, growth and evolution, and contribution and legacy. We know those things equal pleasure and pain. I can tell you right now, I mean, it's taken me years, like, a couple years in a row. My son didn't make the Little League All-Star game, and it hurt. It just hurt. It was the lack of significance, the lack of connection, the lack of appreciation, all those things wrapped up. It really, really, really hurts when you think your kid deserves something and doesn't get it, right? There's legitimate pain. And I'll be honest, to this day, I'm still working through it because it's legit. I'm going to read that part again, and hopefully you guys are with me on this. What's the real essence of pleasure and pain? Here we go. We know that psychological pleasure and pain is determined by the fulfillment of certain emotional needs. We know that people need certainty and safety, variety and excitement, connection and love, significance and power, growth and evolution, and contribution and legacy. We know people need that. So anything that gives us those things equals pleasure. Anything that threatens or deprives those things equals pain, sometimes very intense, long-lasting pain. Not physical pain, like bumping my arm on the door when I'm trying to walk in carrying groceries. That pain goes away rather quickly. But the pain of like sitting up at midnight with your son when he's looking for an announcement he doesn't get, that pain stays with you. I digress. All right. Page 54. We also know that people form beliefs that determine their behaviors. We know that people can become addicted to the emotions they experience on a daily basis. And that is to say nothing of the chemicals outside our bodies that we can become addicted to putting in. This tip, number 8, is focused on the inside job of marketing. And to craft messages that truly speak to the prospects listening is to be an expert at the game of marketing. Here's a Klubi snack for you. It's in the book. Charlie, you're not on board with me live. Normally, there's this great guy from South Africa named Charlie who's on board. And at the end of every session, he asks for a Klubi snack. After 69 weeks in a row of doing Get a Klu in 52 with somebody live on board with me, last week during the Oscars and a Padres baseball game, it was the first session that I ever did myself. And it looks like tonight might be the second in a row where nobody's coming on Zoom to talk with me after reading the tip. I want to go ahead and say thank you to those of you that are watching live on the Facebook side or watching a recording of this thereafter on YouTube or something like that. Let me go ahead and read the Klubi snack to finish up tonight's tip. Klubi snack. To be a student of behavior is to be an expert in marketing. Very simply, to be a student of behavior is to be an expert in marketing. It's kind of like, I'm done reading, by the way. That's tip number 8 in the marketing section, tip number 18 overall. I have this flyby coaching video that I did one time called Be the Animal. Be the animal, meaning the best hunter isn't the person saying, I got the best ammunition, I'm the best hunter. I got the best truck, I got the best camo, I got the best face paint, I go to the best spot. Me, I'm the best hunter, I'm the best hunter. That's not the best hunter. The best hunter is the one trying to be the animal. So how does the animal sleep? How does the animal move? How does the animal interact with other animals in the environment? When does it rest? When does it hunt? When does it exercise and play? Where does it go? Which forms of shade does it prefer? The more effort you try to understand what's going on with the animal, you might get to be 1/2 step ahead of the animal, which would make you the best hunter. Now, I'm a nonviolent guy. I like to say things like feed 2 birds with 1 grain rather than kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm a very nonviolent person, but I love the metaphor. To be a good salesperson, to be a good marketer, to be a good friend, you're not trying to be yourself. Stop living autobiographically. Live the biography. Write the biography of the person you're trying to influence, and you'll have a better time influencing them. All right, 8:16 p.m. This was tip number 18 overall from the book, 18 of 52. Tip number 8 in the marketing section tonight. We were talking about knowing the drivers of buyer or human psychology to be able to speak to those drivers of psychology in our marketing messages and the promises that we're making to the marketplace. I'm going to go ahead and enjoy saying thank you so much for coming on board. If you were watching on Facebook, YouTube, nobody came on Zoom tonight. It's actually kind of refreshing. You'd think like, oh no, what if somebody doesn't come on? Well, it's kind of refreshing because I get to come in, read my tip, and get out. I've done these sessions as long as 90 minutes before, which is always worthwhile in its own right. But it is refreshing to know I'm going to get back to my Sunday night, back to my family, back to planning my week. And boy, what a great week it's going to be. My son plays baseball Tuesday against Ramona to finish up a 3-game series where he's hit 2 home runs, first 2 home runs in his life. So it's really exciting watching AJ and his teammates. God, what a great group of boys. They're all pulling together. Everybody's doing something special every day. It's fun watching Westview baseball. My son's on the junior varsity team. It's fun watching that group right now. They're having a lot of fun, a lot of success together. So I'm looking forward to that and making progress on the book that I'm writing. You guys, one of the reasons you want to pick up Get a Klu in 52 is because it's got a preview chapter for the book that I'm working on now. 1 chapter's done, and we're working on drafts of the remaining chapters. The integrity game. It's going to be one of the most important pieces of work I've done in personal professional growth. I mean, my master's was important. My thesis was important. My coach's training workbook that I created is important. There's a lot of things that I've done that are really cool, but I'm really looking forward to the impact this book is going to make, the integrity game. So get to work, make more progress on that later this week. And I just hope that you're ready to, ready for a great week. Integrate, your personal and professional needs. Make sure that what you're doing in your life is serving both in balance. The world needs more integrity. I'm going to be talking about integrity a lot in the coming year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It's not something that we have or don't have. It's something that we're doing or not doing. What are you doing right now? And is that integrating with purpose, potential, gifts, goals, strategy, word, commitment, service? What are you doing right now? We are either integrating or we are disintegrating. So I wish more integrity for you and the world. Hope you guys get your copy of Get a Clue in 52. Give me feedback on the preview chapter of the integrity game. Contact us if you're interested in complimentary coaching from myself or one of the coaches that I've trained, and have yourself a great week. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see you guys on a future installment of Get a Clue in 52. You're always welcome to join on the Zoom side. Very easy. tinyurl.com/get a clue. All right, you guys, have a great Sunday. Have a great week. We'll see you.